The breaking point. Ben was a quiet, reserved person. Never the type to make a fuss. He tried his best to go unnoticed, worked quietly, and went home. But there are people that just can't leave well enough alone. That person was Dennis. Dennis loved finding fault in Ben's work, embarrassing him at meetings. "Hey, Ben," Dennis said, looking pious. "Next time you hand in the report, just use one paperclip." What a waste of company funds. Laughter erupted from his co-workers. Ben felt his face burning. "Understood," was all Ben could say. After the meeting, Dennis slapped Ben on the back. "I'm just busting your chops, man," Dennis said, slipping down the hall. At the end of the workday, Ben gathered his things to leave. Dennis walked by Ben's office, a group of coworkers in tow. Ben, needing clarification on a report, tried to get Dennis's attention. "Excuse me, Dennis," Ben said, as the group neared him. "I have a quick question." Before Ben could ask, Dennis rolled his eyes. "I'm really busy right now. Can I ignore you some other time?" More laughter from the group. The group strolled away, leaving Ben angry and annoyed. That weekend, Ben thought about every snide remark and cruel trick. The times Dennis embarrassed him, took credit for his work, and hindered his chances for promotion. When Ben awoke Monday morning, a plan was set in motion. Operation Destroy Dennis has begun. A smile crept across Ben's face. After Ben finished his coffee, he slipped a few extra items into his bag and headed to work. When Ben arrived, the office was in full swing. Computer screens glowed, and people chatted about their weekend. Dennis noticed Ben and started in on him right away. "Nice of you to finally join us," Dennis quipped. "Hot date?" Dennis mocked. "Maybe more like hanging with mommy." Others started to laugh. Dennis gave Ben a satisfied look. "Something like that," Ben said calmly. "Except I was with your mom, not mine." The office went quiet. Dennis's mouth dropped open. Shock and disbelief flashed across his face. All at once, the office burst into laughter. He slapped Dennis on the back. "Just busting your chops, man," Ben said, heading down the hall to his office. Ben went into his office and shut the door. His heart was beating fast. Embarrassing Dennis right away wasn't part of the plan, but it was a great start. When lunchtime came around, Ben sat alone in the break room. He had a ham and cheese sandwich, his favorite, and was munching on grapes. Dennis entered the break room. Upon seeing Ben, he approached him. "What the hell was that this morning?" His voice full of irritation. "I'm not sure what you mean," Ben said, popping a grape into his mouth. Dennis grabbed half of Ben's sandwich. "I'll let it slide, this time." Dennis strolled out of the break room, taking half of Ben's lunch with him. Phase 1 initiated, Ben whispered as he finished his grapes. At 2:30, Ben made his way to the meeting room. He scanned the room, looking for a place to take a seat, hoping to sit far away from Dennis. But Dennis wasn't there. "Hey, everyone," said a woman. She held up her hand. Dennis was in charge of today's meeting. She continued. "Unfortunately, he went home sick." Concerned murmurs filled the room. "I hope there's nothing going around," said Debbie from accounting. "I can't afford to miss any work," complained Dave from the 4th floor. "I am out of sick days." But Ben wasn't worried. It wasn't the flu, or anything contagious. It was a laxative mixed into mayo, and spread generously on a ham and cheese sandwich. "We need someone from his department to lead the meeting," said the woman in front. "Who knows the material?" Before anyone could speak, Ben stood up. "That would be me," Ben said. He moved to the front of the room. After the meeting, Ben was stopped by the department head. "Nice job in there," she said. "You really know your stuff." "Thanks," Ben said, a little surprised. "It's what I do." He smiled nervously. "Dennis is lucky to have you on his team," she added, grabbing her phone. I hope he appreciates you. As soon as everyone left the room, Ben smiled. Phase 1. Complete. The next morning, the office was buzzing. Co-workers, who barely said 2 words to Ben, came up to him and shook his hand. You saved our butts, dude, said one guy. I love the way you took charge, said Maddie with a wink. Yeah, and sweet mom joke, said another guy, laughing. Awesome burn. Ben, flustered by all the attention, thanked everyone, then headed to his office. While checking emails, Ben was delighted to see that Dennis would be out another day, recovering. Perfect, he grinned. Time to start phase 2. He spent the rest of the day working on assigned projects and installing safeguards. The next day, Ben was working in his office. Dennis walked by. His face still looked a little green. Good morning, Dennis, Ben said, hiding a smile. Hope you're feeling better. Dennis just grunted, headed down the hall, and slammed his office door. No mean joke or cruel comment. It's going to be a good day. Ben beamed. About an hour later, Dennis burst through Ben's door. Dude, you gotta help me. Panic rising in his voice. Ben glanced up from his screen. What's up, Dennis? Just then, the department head opened the door. There you are, Dennis. I have been looking for you. Dennis shot Ben a desperate look. Oh, hey Ruth, Dennis said, turning toward the door. I was going over something important. His eyes darted back to Ben, pleading. Ben, Ruth interjected. Can I borrow Dennis? Ben locked eyes with Dennis. Absolutely, he's all yours. Thank you, Ben. She smiled. Follow me, please. Dennis left, shocked and stunned. The rest of the workday was filled with whispers, gossip, and wondering what was next. At the end of the day, Dennis was escorted from the building, carrying a box of personal belongings. Although Ben was in his office, when the walk of shame took place, he could hear Dennis, desperate to clear his name. I was set up. Dennis howled as he left the building. A few minutes later, Ruth was back at Ben's door. Hey, Ben. Her tone was light. We had to let Dennis go. Ben gave his best surprised look. I can't discuss any details, she continued. But we would like to speak to you regarding your future here. Yes, of course, Ben said, controlling his excitement. Excellent, she said. I will see you in my office. Tomorrow morning, 9 a.m. 9 a.m., he repeated back. Ruth smiled and left Ben's office. Once Ben was alone, he put his hands behind his head and leaned back in his chair. That was easier than I thought, he said with a laugh. I should have done this a long time ago. He grabbed his bag to leave, then smiled. Operation Destroy Dennis, complete.